coming back after that horrific knockout that he suffered. Great example of a fighter who just let the sport outgrow him. I think that it's probably gonna be a time for him to hang it up. What is going on, everybody? This is Sergey from MMA Soap Opera, and today we're gonna be talking about the upcoming UFC 310 event, which is only about 1.5 weeks away, and it looks absolutely incredible. Some might even say that it rivals UFC 300. Quite honestly, I'm not sure about that, but I do think that it's an above average UFC card. Alright, so let's jump straight into it and let's have a look at the card. Alright, so at last, UFC 310, the last major card of 2024, and man, what a year this was. We're gonna definitely do a little wrap-up of 2024 and talk about the cards that we had throughout this year, but today let's focus just on the UFC 310 card. So yeah, in the main fight of the evening, we will have a mysterious debut of Kai Asakura, a Japanese fighter who's gonna face Alexandre Pantoja straight for the flyweight belt. Pretty interesting stuff. There's not that much to say about Kai Asakura yet, apart from the fact that he's a massive star in Japan with a massive social media following, and just the fact alone that in his UFC debut he's fighting for a belt right away only speaks about the level of respect that Dana White has for his social media presence. Anyways, I'm sure that this is not the first time this happened in the UFC, but it's the first time in a recent history, and I'm kinda excited to see what the Kai Asakura brings, because Pantoja, he's a beast. Like, that man is a workhorse. Exciting stuff. So that is the main fight of the evening, but to be honest, for me, the two main fights are for sure Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary, and then Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov 2. Obviously, both of those fights are #1 contender matchups for the belt. Both of the fights have massive implications, especially the Gane and Volkov fight. I'm gonna talk about it in just a second. But yeah, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary, man, that fight is going to be absolutely incredible. And I think that we're gonna get a resolve of a couple of rumors that we had. Apparently when Shavkat Rakhmonov was training with Ian Gary, he was whooping his ass. We'll see about that, that's just allegedly, and I think that Ian Gary is gonna have a lot to say about it the week prior to the fight. Man, those pre-fight press conferences are gonna be hilarious. But hey, like, massive respect for Ian Gary for taking that fight in the first place. Shavkat Rakhmonov is obviously the boogeyman of the division, and I think that this is a good timing for Ian Gary to accept this kind of fight anyways, because both of the fighters are undefeated. In the case that Ian Gary loses this fight, hey, he lost to a top contender. He's probably gonna be like 1 or 2 wins away from getting the title match anyways. So yeah, massive respect to Ian Gary. Oh yeah, by the way, if you are into UFC, into MMA, all the drama that is happening in the background, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell. That's exactly what we're talking about in here. And when it comes to Alexander Volkov and Cyril Gane 2 fight, I think that is going to be quite of a decisive fight in the heavyweight division, and I think that winner of this fight is gonna fight Tom Aspinall regardless of how it ends up with Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones. Let's say that the Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones fight happens and Jon Jones wins. There's absolutely no way that Jon Jones will want to fight Cyril Gane again. He already defeated him once, and especially he's not gonna want to fight Alexander Volkov. He's been talking about his legacy and wanting to fight champions with belts. That's not what Volkov is, so either way Tom Aspinall would have to step in. If Tom Aspinall defeats Jon Jones, one of these two guys is gonna be #1 contender matchup. And then the last third option is that Jon Jones is gonna move away, he's gonna relinquish the belt, he's gonna go and whatever, fight Pereira or retire. And once again, Tom Aspinall is gonna fight the winner of Volkov and Gane fight. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Finally, we're gonna get some sort of resolve in that weight class. Then when it comes to this rematch of Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov, I think that this is gonna be a way better matchup than the first time. Because in my opinion, Volkov has been looking fantastic lately. And Cyril Gane, considering how inactive he was ever since he lost basically to Jon Jones, right? He's been shooting films in France, he's been enjoying being a superstar in there. So yeah, I think that the activity of Volkov in the past couple of years is probably gonna be a massive advantage for him in this fight. Moving on, in the earlier fights of UFC 310, we're gonna see, for example, return of Nate the Train Landwehr in the UFC!
Hey, San Antonio, take a look at his bicep! Woo! Nate the Train in the UFC!
And this is an exciting fighter in the octagon, obviously, but mostly the biggest appeal of Nate is every time he's holding a microphone. That guy is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, Then we're gonna see Bryce Mitchell, who's gonna go against Kron Gracie. Bryce is coming back after that horrific knockout that he suffered in the beginning of this year. Hold on, let me actually double check. Okay, so his fight against Emmett was actually 17 December, so that's exactly 1 year. Alright, in that case, I was gonna say that I'm not sure if he took enough time to recover, but 1 year is probably enough. But apart from that KO, he hasn't been looking that bad. He won against Dan Ige right before that. Sure, before that he got his ass whooped by Ilya Topuria, but everyone is getting his ass whooped by Ilya Topuria. I think that there's still quite a lot of problems with Bryce Mitchell. He definitely looked better in his last fights than Kron Gracie did. Kron Gracie looked like shit. I think that Kron Gracie is a great example of a fighter who just let the sport outgrow him. I'm sorry to say, but I do think that the only interesting thing about Kron Gracie is just his last name. Stylistically, obviously this is a grappler's delight, but I do think that there is a possibility of Bryce Mitchell maybe getting some sort of a finish in a stand-up if Bryce Mitchell manages to keep it standing. So yeah, that would probably be my pick. Then another interesting match on the card is going to be Anthony Smith against Dominic Reyes, and man, if Anthony Smith loses this one, or if he's gonna look the way he looked in the past couple of matches, I think that it's probably gonna be a time for him to hang it up. Kind of a similar story with Dominic Reyes, although I do think that he's been looking much better recently than Anthony Smith. But yeah, we can basically call this fight as a battle of veterans at this point. Yeah man, another great fight is Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Vicente Luque versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean Themba Gorimbo. Sorry. That's right, Nick Diaz is out. Themba jumps in. I think that we are romanticizing Diaz brothers a little bit too much. For sure, their legacy is absolutely undeniable, but I just don't see a way for Nick Diaz to coming back in any meaningful way. He's probably just trying to do the fight, take the bag, and just leave into the sunset. And it's pretty sad, man, because it really does seem like Nick Diaz has no other alternative. Sad stuff. Another interesting fight, Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. How the f is this fight on the prelims? This is a massive fight with massive implications on featherweight division. Like if Aljamain Sterling pulls this off, or well, if Movsar Evloev wins, either of those two fighters are gonna be in the talk for the belt. So yeah man, this must be UFC's promotion tactic to get more people into prelims and probably subscribe to Fight Pass as well. Well done UFC, worked like a charm. But there's actually so many great fights in prelims and early prelims. For example, Brian Battle versus Randy Brown. That thing has violence written all over it. Then another one, Chase Hooper versus Clay Guida. That's a hilarious matchup. That's basically a battle of two generations. Clay is damn near twice the age of Chase Hooper, man. Then we'll see Cody Durden versus Joshua Vaughn. Michael Chiesa is also back. Chris Weidman as well. Let's hope for no eye pokes this time. And that's not even all. We're gonna definitely talk about UFC 310 next week. But for sure, we are ending 2024 with a massive bang. I'm not sure if it's better than UFC 300. It's definitely way better than UFC 309 that we just had. But like I said earlier, I do think that this is above average card. But what do you think about UFC 310? Do you have a favorite fight here? And how would you compare this card to the rest of the cards of 2024? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really curious to know. By the way, once you're gonna be there in the comment section, make sure to also hit subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. That would be the easiest way to support this channel, and we would be very grateful for that. In return, we're gonna bring you regular content about UFC, MMA, all the drama that is happening in the background. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Stay tuned for the coming content. This was Sergey from MMA Soap Opera, because that's what it is.